Hey, everybody. We will be with you in about 4 minutes and 49 seconds. Okay, we've already got from Lee Hardy, looking forward to this session. Very good, Lee. Where are you from? Anybody else out there, just jump on and say howdy hi to us. And Aaron Fagan and I, because we both work hard at this, we had to go down to Florida a couple of weeks ago. It was, I think it was like 3 degrees in Maryland, right?
Yeah,
Aaron, something like that?
Yeah, 6, 3, something very cold.
Yeah, I was at 3 and 4 degrees. He was maybe 5 or 6 degrees. So we had to go down where it was 80 degrees to go do this. So we suffer for you. We were sweating. He was complaining, my shirt has to be wrung out a little sweaty. And I went, oh yeah, right. When I go back to Maryland, it's 4 degrees.
That's right. We even had to do one of these by a pool, so it's tough.
We were sitting out at a pool. I mean, this is just a horrible, hard work.
That's right.
Okay, anybody else signed on here? Johnny Netherland from Farmersville, Louisiana. Cool. I'd like to say that there's a big prize for the furthest one away, but I would be lying. Jim Zaboski. Hello from Rochester, New York. Oh, baby, it's cold up there, isn't it? So I used to teach up all the time at Whirlwind USA up in Rochester. And they make all of the gadgets for, to hook sound systems and guitars and all that together.
That's cool.
Anybody else, just give us a shout. So in about 1 minute and 50 odd seconds, we'll go ahead, I'll introduce Aaron, and then we have probably a 5 to maybe a 10-minute presentation, just basically just to chum the waters, as it were, as to the kind of content that we can talk about. And then basically this program is yours. I mean, you can ask us any darn thing you want. And we'll have to do our best to answer it. If we don't know right now, we will find out later and get back to you. Absolutely. And you can, as you ask your questions, they will sync up with the presentation itself, so we can see those later. Okay, just over a minute left. And don't be shy to sign in, ask anything, whatever, or sit back and relax. Okay. Let's kill the music. Okay, so first, I would like to introduce Aaron Fagan on my left, your right, or your left, my right, whatever that is, that side. Hey, Aaron, say hi to everybody out in TV land.
Hey, everybody. Mike, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I've done a few of these last year, but I'm going to be trying to do more of these Ask the Expert videos. And I think this Thursday night, 7 o'clock time slot is a good one. Let us know in any comments if about any topics that you would like to see. But we're going to cover some experiments and demonstrations. You know, Aaron and I, in the last couple of weeks, have done a whole, what do we do? Five installs of the new SoftStartHome. We had to go down to Florida to do this because air conditioners don't react the same way in 5-degree temperatures, nor does my hands. But yeah, so what I'm going to do here is just roll back to my PowerPoint presentation, and then we're going to go through that. Aaron and we can both discuss this as we're doing this, and then you can ask whatever questions you want. How does that sound, everybody?
Sounds
Okay.
good.
So I'm extremely interested in this idea of boondocking for RVs, and partly because, you know, we see RVs have been cranked out like crazy in the last year, couple of years, but they really haven't increased the number of camping sites. But I'm also interested in taking care of yourself at home. And this is because I've got friends and colleagues that live in different areas of the country that have been shut down by massive power issues, lack of power and everything. So let's talk a little bit about that. It used to be that you didn't hear very much about power outages. The U.S. power grid, believe it or not, is like 125 plus years old, has not been upgraded in decades. My house is now 100 years old officially. I've ripped out most all of the old wiring, replaced wiring everywhere. But I mean, this, there's the power grid itself is susceptible just because of age. We've also seen there's been an increase in the number of hurricanes, fires and storms are causing more power blackouts. I've got friends around the country that, you know, they go dark for days at a time because there's no power. And because we're an electric powered society, you know, if electricity is disrupted for any time, everything grinds to a halt. I see this with my own kids. I mean, they work from home. They do all kinds of stuff. They're grown adults. But if the power goes out, all of a sudden I'm getting a call on my cell phone. Dad, do you have power there? Can I bring a computer over? I have work to do. And of course, that's easy because I'm 5 minutes away and I've got power and they don't. But imagine if you're in an area that you're hundreds of miles away from this and you don't have a friendly dad to take you in.
Absolutely. That, you know, as you said, it's happening more and more.
It's more and more. A week doesn't go by when you don't see some cyclone. What do they call it? A bomb cyclone that's happening out in
bomb cyclone.
Yeah, wow. Stuff I didn't even know about. Some of the blackouts are planned, though. I know Texas has multiple instances of shutdowns of the power. You know, in the winter, in the summer, freezing temperatures. Sometimes it shuts down the pumping stations for the power. California, I've got colleagues out in California, and they're complaining about planned blackouts that they use to shut down the power in areas to mitigate forest fires. Some states, they're customers too. Yeah. So yeah, little spell check right there. Don't tell anybody. Some states are asking customers to reduce their energy usage so they don't have to do rolling blackouts. So they just did this in Maryland a couple of weeks ago. And they said, if you don't, we're going to have to institute rolling blackouts. Wow.
Well, right. And on that note, you know, that for years, as we know, you know, BG and some of the other, you know, utilities out there have said, hey, let us monitor, you know, your power usage through, you know, our thermostat. And, you know, during, you know, high demand time, we're going to control and shut off your air conditioner use during the summer or whatever for a period of time. And for that, we'll give you a discount. But again, it's another way of controlling power. They just don't have enough.
Right.
Sometimes.
And now, were you telling me, Aaron, I think you were, that in California, aren't they offering customers like a $300 rebate if they buy a portable generator for their house? Right? Isn't that it?
So in wildfire areas, prone areas, they're saying, hey, we want the homeowners to have, a backup power and not be susceptible to, blackouts, right, in case of forest fires. So they want their wells and sump pumps and other things working. So they're giving, a $350 rebate for backup generators or batteries so they can, have, this backup power. So.
Right. Amazing. Okay, let's keep rolling here. Now, what do we need power for? Of course, obvious power needs. You need electricity for lighting, for Wi-Fi, to charge your phones, for heating and cooking. However, I've found that there's a huge amount of RV owners. They also need electricity for their CPAP machines. I've got friends, their parents need oxygen concentrators and other medical devices. I've also seen a number of places in the country that get so hot that senior citizens need air conditioning in order to survive. So, if I remember being in Phoenix, Arizona, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, it was like 111 degrees in the shade.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it was just, and they kept telling me it's a dry heat. And and I'm looking at it, I'm like going, dry heat my butt. That's just hot.
It's hot. I've been there too. A couple years ago, it was record setting. I think it was like 121 during the day. And at night, 12 o'clock at night, I was out, with customers at a bar and it was, still 102 at 12 o'clock at night. You're like,
yeah, this is crazy.
Like being in an oven.
And the other thing that's interesting, a lot of people don't realize it until it goes away. Well pumps need 240 volts to operate. So my own parents, they used to rely on that, but if you have not a sump pump, if you have a submersible pump, it needs 240 volts. And if you don't have that, you've got no water. And if you've got no water, you can't flush toilets, you can't run a bath. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff happens. Let's see. Oh, we've got a couple more welcomes to do. Gary Stone joining from Seattle. Very good, Gary.
Wow.
Like that. Hello from snowbound central Minnesota. Well, Ken, put on your snowshoes or whatever, or take them off. Take off your snowshoes and sit back and enjoy. Now, I get this question all the time, and I had to go do some research on this. Can I plug my RV generator, my built-in RV generator, into my house electric panel, my service panel? And here's the thing that's really crazy that it took me a little while to sink into my head. In most cases, an onboard RV generator is not suitable for temporary house power. Get this. Okay, so you may have a 5 or 7 or 10,000 watt generator. It's not 240 volts. They have 2 legs of 120 volts in phase. Yeah, this is why they carry 2 neutrals. They do not have a split phase 120, 240 volt that would be required to run things, well, like your home, like your central air conditioner or your well pump or whatever. You can get a 30 amp 120 volt service out, but that won't run any of the other things. I have not found a single standard RV that actually has split phase 120, 240 in it, even though it may have a 5 or 7,000 watt Onan. And I've talked to a number of manufacturer engineers about this, and they said that the RVIA required, they would not allow 240 volts in RVs, which is crazy because every time you plug it into a 50 amp receptacle, guess what you're doing? You're providing 240 volts. So somebody didn't really think that whole thing through. So no, RV, the built-in generators are really not usable without massive regrooving, and nobody wants to have to do that. I am not going to tell you how to change yours over to 240 volts, so do not ask. Yes, I know how to do it, but don't ask. What about a portable 240 volt generator? Yeah, you can get these guys anywhere. Now, I am going to do an entire webcast here on nothing but generator types here soon. Inverter generators and hybrid generators and standard, constant speed generators and quiet generators, and I could go on for hours on this. I'm just going to tell you that you cannot just plug a generator into your house and make it and expect it to work. You really need a couple of things to be legal and safe. And at the very least, you're going to need something like this. And this is just a lockout switch. And basically, here's your main breaker in your house. And this would be your double 30 amp breaker from your 240 volt generator, right? And this little slidey thing kind of locks out. So you would turn off the main, slide this piece up, and then be able to turn on the generator power. And going the other way, you can turn off the generator power, slide this down, and then turn your mains back on. Because if you don't do this properly, it's possible for you to inject 120 volts, 240 volts back into your local power grid and wiring outside that your linemen are trying to restore. And you can kill people with this. We don't like that. So that's one way. And they also each building code will have a variety of different ways to hook this up. So Aaron, I think you were working a little bit with a company, what's it called?
Generlink. Yeah.
Generlink, right? And they had kind of a neat gadget that would plug right onto your where your watt meter was coming in. And it had a built-in 200 amp transfer switch. I thought it was pretty sweet. I tried to get one here for my dad's house, but I found out quickly that my local power company would not allow it. And apparently that's one of the issues that's slowing this whole thing down.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's exactly there's so many different utilities across the country. They each have their own various ways of doing things, and getting each utility across the country to accept Generlink is their real issue. That's the reason we're not seeing it massively take off. It is approved certain places, not approved other places. But the beauty of it is, if you're, a utility service person or an electrician, you can probably do this in about 5-10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And it's beautiful, and you just plug the power cord right into it. But
it basically almost looks like a cake pan. And you take off the little security tab on the thing. You pull your meter off. And when they say pulling the meter, they literally mean pulling the meter. Yep. This thing goes on there, and then you plug your meter back on it, and you put your bands on it, your security bands. And whenever you turn your generator on, guess what? It powers off the generator, and that's pretty sweet. I believe it. I think it also had a way to start the generator up if the power went off in the house. Yeah. But I never got to really play with this. Okay, so let's see. We've got I got a couple more links here coming in. Snoopy, hi gents. Sorry I'm late. Ho gents. Hey Snoopy, guess what? It's all recorded. You can get it later. There will be a test. What else we got? Lee says, I use a Generlink unit legal where I live. Yeah, I mean. Nice. When I saw that, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. So in order to, instead of doing that at my dad's house, which would have worked, I had to go rent a trencher, dig a 150-foot trench, lay conduit out, run cable out, wiring out, and hook all of that stuff. It was days worth of work, right? And luckily for me, I could afford to rent a trencher or a ditch witch. Back in the day when we were teenagers, my dad would have said, that's only a 150-foot ditch. It's only 18 inches deep. You kids just dig it. I'm not paying for that. You kids nuts, right? That's how that goes. But I think they're just a sweet unit for a lot of this stuff. But again, it all depends on code. Here's one thing you never want to use. And a lot of guys, they call this a suicide cord, and it really is. It's basically a male to male adapter. And they make these that'll plug into your generator and plug into like a dryer outlet. And these are really, really dangerous. They're a huge code violation. You can buy them on Amazon or eBay. Guess what? Just because you can buy something on Amazon or eBay or any of the other ones does not mean that it's legal or ethical. And so they talk about backfeeding voltage into your house, but it can backfeed it into your neighborhood and kill somebody that's working to restore power. So don't do it. Bad idea. Don't do it at all. How big of a generator do you need to power your house? Well, here's another interesting thing. So now I've been starting to do experiments with air conditioners, residential air conditioners, and the types of generators that you need to run them. Now, you absolutely want to have a split phase 120, 240 volt generator. They make them as small as 5 kilowatts that I've seen. They can run a lot of your home appliances, but I found they won't start your central air conditioner or heat pump just due to the inrush current.
Right.
You guys are familiar with all of the SoftStart products that we've used and I've experimented with for RVs for the last couple, 3 years. But guess what? The most standard residential, air conditioner heat pumps have the same issues. I couldn't even get my son's 2-ton central air unit to start up off of a EU 7000. And that is like the gold standard of generators. And again, it powered most of the household loads, but it still wouldn't start that up just because of the huge inrush current that we had with it. But there's hope is here, right? So
That's
there's
right.
something called SoftStartHome. So when they told me about this a year ago, they said, "Would you like one to play with when one's available?" And this is like handing candy to a diabetic, And I'm like, "Yes, please send me anything. I would like to see this because I have places that I can try this." And so that SoftStartHome has only been introduced a few months ago,
Yeah,
right,
we
Aaron?
introduced it back in October.
Yeah. So now it works on most single and 2-stage units up to 6 tons. I think the most we installed it on was a 4-ton unit. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Believe.
a 4-ton, correct.
And I've tested it now. I've got to do this on 6 different units. My kids' unit. Plus, Aaron and I braved the 80-degree weather down in Fort Lauderdale and did it on 5 more units, sitting out at the pool. Right there, you go.
That's right.
The thing that's really interesting, it also lowers the startup noise from the compressor when it kicks on. So here's the thing that happened with my kids' unit. Their unit is outside of their brick house, but it's next to the neighbor's bedroom, right? This is how you do this. And we put this on. We were experimenting with it and trying a couple of different ways. And finally, the guy came out and he said, "What did you guys do differently? Because we can't hear your air conditioner starting up."
Yeah,
And
that's
this
a
is
big
just
deal.
out of the blue. We didn't go ask them, "Hey, is this sound quieter?" They're saying, "What did you guys do?" Because it's not bugging us now. And I'm like, "Oh, that's a good thing." Okay, we got a
Yeah,
couple. Let's see,
absolutely.
we got a couple more questions here. Let's make
Sure.
sure. Yeah, GenerLink has 30 and 40 amp models, and some have surge protection. Yep, that is correct. Exactly right. And hi from Cirrus, California. Cirrus? Where the heck is that?
I don't know. Let us
I've
know.
been a lot of places, but I can't remember any of this. Ooh. What 120/240 volt single phase motors drawing less than 42 amp max continuous are not suitable for being started. Wow. By a SoftStartHome device. Okay, we're going to have to come back to that one, huh?
Yeah.
And we'll come back to that. And when will a SoftStartHome device for 3-phase motor be available? I was just talking to Doug the other day about that.
Yeah, I've been talking to him since, October, and There's a
Yeah.
lot of
Three phase is
three-phase.
possible.
Yeah,
I am, believe it or not, I am somewhat of an expert on three-phase power because I used to do this in an industrial situation many years ago and for concerts and generators and all that. But three-phase is its own little world. Hey, I could do a class just on three-phase.
absolutely. But in the commercial world, yeah, as you know, three-phase is the majority of it. So the rooftop units, some refrigeration, you get into the bigger units, 6 to 12 tons and bigger. It's all three-phase.
Right,
So
three-phase. And industrial, the problem is residences almost never have three-phase power available to them. I mean, you just don't. It just costs extra transformers and all that. So we don't see very much of that. But a lot of this market will in fact be for big air conditioners that have huge amounts of starting currents, and you hear these things go bang. But as the proof gets more obvious that this works, then of course this becomes a better sell, to do this.
absolutely.
So here's what we did. Now this is interesting. These are the 5 units that we installed a couple of weeks ago, starting at. And I don't have all the numbers and stuff in front of me, but we can post later, what the exact models were. But the first one, as you can see, as you get older units, they have a lot of inrush current to get started. So this one, first one was 118 amps. And we installed the SoftStartHome on there. It dropped to 18.67 amps of inrush. I mean, this is crazy.
Amazing.
Static current was about 10.5 amps. Now this is a 240 volts running. I believe was that a 2-ton unit on the very first one we did, or 3?
No, that was actually the 4-ton.
That was a 4-ton. That was a 4-ton unit. Then we moved over to the next one, and that had a 62.4 amps of inrush, and it dropped to like 27 amps after the soft start was installed, and its continuous running was around 8.4 amps or so. The third unit, then we moved down the street. It started with about 61.3 amps of inrush. The stock one, after we had a soft start on it, it was down to 21.6 amps, and it was running around 7.1 amps normal power. And I believe, was that one a heat pump, I think? Because this works on heat pumps as well, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that was a heat pump. Correct.
That was a heat pump.
I think that was a 3-ton heat pump.
I believe so, right. And of course, it was 80 degrees out, so it wasn't in heat pump mode. It was in darn cooling mode. And our fourth unit, we were at 109 amps of inrush, the stock one. And SoftStartHome had reduced it to 28 amps. We didn't write it down here, my bad. It's stuck in a photo someplace. And the very last one we did, which was let's call it vintage, old.
Yeah, very. The thermostat was from the 60s. Let's just put it
Yeah, so this was a really, really old one. It was needing about 48 amps to start up, and it dropped at almost exactly to 24 amps. We didn't get an inrush, a continuous static current on it, but all of them, there was significant, anywhere from 50, 60, 70% reduction in that inrush current, which is what makes the lights dim. When it comes on, it also makes it noisy and such.
Sure.
Now, I also did, because I am a sound engineer and I can't help myself, I brought all my fancy stuff with me. Wait a minute. I do have one here. I got to show you guys this just because I can. I brought one of my high-end calibration mics with me. We sit on the table. And so this is what we call real-time analyzer mic. And this is calibrated, and this is how I make rock concerts sound good and loud, good, both, whatever. So I took all of this stuff down with me and also had the ability to capture like peak noise levels when this started up. And I did this on all 5 air conditioners. So here it is, the starting sound pressure level without this without SoftStartHome, just the standard unit. And you could see it peaked out at some 70 decibels. I was, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet away. But once we added it in, here's the same thing a couple minutes later. You could see the difference. Now, it's hard to put an actual SPL, how loud difference it is, because there's so much sonic difference in the balance of the spectrum. My gut feel is probably about 16 decibels, but I'm going to have to get a little calculus out to go sort this out. But you can see this is the stock startup, and it's got this big bump right up here in the middle. And after we put soft start on there, everything, this is the same scale. This whole middle section where our hearing is really sensitive dropped down, so it just kind of does like a little whoosh. I mean, this is one of the little side benefits we really didn't think about. And as we were doing this, in the one place, somebody was complaining. They said, you should put that one on those guys across the street because that wakes me up all the time.
Yep.
So maybe this is a Christmas present for a neighbor with a noisy air conditioner? I don't know. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to your point, we all know all new construction. Have you seen new construction now, right? I mean, they're getting the houses closer and closer together, right? I saw one, I swear today, I think they're about 8 feet apart from each other. They might as well be a townhouse, but they were single family homes, right? So you just think about these new homes that are being built and they're getting closer and closer together, or you live in a townhouse, or you live in a condo and the air conditioner's on the balcony and your neighbor has a loud one. Yeah, like you said, great Christmas present, birthday present, something like that, right?
Okay,
so here you go.
So we've got a thing. Aaron's audio sounds like the microphone is across the room. Mike, your audio is perfect. Yeah, I know. Aaron, my apologies. He's getting better at this. He's promised to buy a better microphone later. If you can get a little closer to your microphone, Aaron, that might help.
Is this better?
Yeah, it should be better. Okay, guys, you know that I'm cheating here because I've been an audio engineer for 50 years, and I have microphones that cost more than a car, and I am not exaggerating. So, and I'm real picky about this. So I would do sound for presidents and and Oprah and Beyonce and you name it. So yeah, mine is supposed to be good. Everybody else, we do our part. But Aaron, you're doing great so far. Okay,
well, thank you. Hopefully, it's a little bit better.
But yes, thank you for the feedback. Your audio is perfect. I can take a screenshot and send one of my sound buddies that always hassles me about this. Private. Oh, wait a minute. Girls' photos. Oh, we're not going to put that up. Yeah. Okay, so Terry. Ceres is pronounced Ceres. Is in Central Valley of California between Sacramento and Fresno. Home of spews. Sock puppet energy units. Do you know what that is, Aaron?
I do not.
Well, we'll do one on sock puppet energy units, and that's how many watt hours are needed to sew a sock puppet.
Huh. Interesting.
He's looking at me like I am not making this up, Terry, am I? It's the absolute truth. So I have to invent terminology that doesn't exist. Okay, so let's keep rolling here. This is fun. Now, do I need to add one for a mini split? And the answer is no. No SoftStartHome or any device won't work on a mini split air conditioner compressor. They don't need them. They basically have a DC to DC inverter compressor already that slowly ramps up the starting current. There's no inrush current that needs to be reduced by anything. I, in fact, added this in. I put in a mini split in my living room, last spring. I'm amazed at the efficiency, at the you can't even hear the thing running. I mean, it's down in the high 30 decibel range in my living room. It's just crazy how good this is. But for the tens of millions of existing central air conditioners out there, guess what? Soft Start products can help with that. I also did a comparison here a while back. We talk about hard start capacitors versus stock capacitors versus soft start. And so I get guys all the time want to argue with me that, I can buy a hard start capacitor for $10 and it does the same thing. And no, it does not. So in this case, what it does is it actually holds the thing at full locked rotor amps, LRA, for up to 1.5 seconds. So in this case, I have 52 amps happening for 1.5 seconds with a hard start capacitor. The stock start only held it for about 1/6 of a second with the 52 amp inrush. And the soft start products on that basically reduced it down to about a 24 amp peak, and it held it a little bit longer. And this is what it looks like. I did this whole series of graphs, which we could talk about later. So basically, instead of the having like dropping the clutch on your car and squealing tires, which is what it normally does, the soft start controller like ramps up the current over a longer period of time, which not only makes it quieter, we think it probably helps the longevity of the mechanics of the compressor as it does. Now, again, this is all the blink of an eye. This is not 6 seconds. This is 1/6 of a second, 150 milliseconds, 300 milliseconds, third of a second or so. It does reduce the noise. Definitely, that's really, really obvious. Okay, so discussion time. So now there's me and Aaron. We're sitting there, struggling. Look at that. Look at our poor guys down in the heat.
I know, so hot.
It's so hot. And yeah, we're down there in swimming pools and everything. Let's see. Where we go. Series. We had one from Terry. Absolutely true. Yes. So sometime, Aaron, when you buy me a beer, I will tell you the story of spews and cues.
Okay.
All words.
A beer it is.
A beer it is. Okay, so now, guys, I want you to ask us anything. So, Aaron, let's just chat about the other kind of experiences that you've had with this. And if you guys have questions, we had one up here. Was this? Let's talk. Daniel said, what 120/240 volt single phase motors drawing less than 42 amps max continuous are not suitable to being started by a SoftStartHome device? I'm guessing, Daniel, you must be talking about air conditioner compressors. Ping me with a little bit more information. What did I have? Oh, I actually had somebody ask me the other day about a 10 horsepower rotary 3-phase converter that he had put in his house that he was trying to use to run some kind of a lathe or whatever, some glass thing. And the problem is drawing 90 some amps inrush, and it's just tripping the 240 volt breaker. And so basically he was converting single phase in the house because he was running some 3-phase machine. The machine didn't need a lot of power, but he had already bought a 3-phase 240 to 480 volt step-up transformer and a 10 horsepower single phase to 3-phase rotary converter. I mean, this is all, complex, big stuff. And then him and his electrician can't get it to work because it just keeps tripping the breaker. So, let's see. So workshop. Oh, so Daniel said he's worried about workshop motors. Gosh, this sounds like right up the alley. So you say this is 40 some amps continuous?
Continuous. Wow.
What the heck? Drawing less than 42 amps max continuous are not suitable. I think that this is probably limited to about 30 amps continuous, at least the wiring sizes that I'm looking at. Do you have a number on that, Aaron, or not?
I don't, but you're probably right. It's about 30, but I'm not sure. I don't have
that's something, so Daniel, if you want to get more information, send me a PM or an email or whatever, and I'll forward it to over some of the engineering guys over there. I do lab testing for these guys. I don't know a lot of the internal workings of it, but I do know, for instance, there is going to be a soft start up product that's rated for 50 amps, right?
That's correct.
Okay. We're not sure exactly when I'm going to get my hot little hands on one of those. That may be what you need, but I'm not even sure I'm supposed to say that. Was I supposed to say that, Aaron?
I mean, who knows, right? I
Who
mean,
knows?
right.
Who knows?
The startup,
Um,
the 50 amp startup. I mean, the
so SSH
start,
shows a 42 amp max. Is that LRA? Is that locked rotor amps, Daniel, or what? Specs. That's a spec sheet. Okay, so here's the thing that's interesting. To really do this, you need to get a I'm going to do a video on this here soon. You need to get some kind of a clamp meter that actually has an inrush setting. So what you're looking for is inrush currents, and then you're looking for continuous currents. Normally, what will happen is when you see a product spec, this will be absolute max kind of a thing, but they rarely draw that kind of continuous power. But the only way to know is to measure. I mean, I've been measuring stuff since I've been a little kid, and I've noticed that amplifier power, all of these other things are not that accurate as to what your real uses are, and especially if you look at a machine, this is going to be under various loading conditions. So a lathe or whatever is going to have a huge amount of power draw in the beginning just because it's got a lot of masses it's got to spin up. And then when it's running, it's not a whole bunch. Let's see. He's asked this SSH spec sheet states 42 amp max continuous. Send me what you got, man. Send me what you got and we'll look at it. This will be fun.
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
Aaron, what else do we know? What else do we know?
So we do know that the SoftStartHome does protect the compressor over time as well, because you have if you're reducing the amp draw, the inrush amps, that's going to help with the compressor's windings and motor, over time, with the heat resistance and everything, it's going to help protect that compressor and help it last longer.
One of the things that I will note is that a number of the motor manufacturers that I've talked to, and this is just a slight skew, but you know what? A lot of the RV manufacturers were doing was just putting modified sine wave inverters to run the residential refrigerators. And I found that none of the motor manufacturers would warranty the refrigerator, wouldn't warranty the compressor if it was on a modified sine wave inverter, because just the vibrations of all of the coils, the wiring inside of it would cause them to rub together and short out.
Sure.
And I know that every time that compressor starts up, when they bang, I mean, they bang. And not just that, but the rubber mounts on it and the flex tubing, the copper and all that other kind of stuff. Now, I have not gone through the millions of cycles to know for sure, but I've got a gut feel that anything that reduces that stress during startup has got to be better. Has got to have more longevity
So
than the thing just hammering itself. Oh, we're still there. Okay.
yeah, anytime it's running at 100%, it's trying to tear itself apart, essentially.
Right. Right.
So the
And
fact that we're
and here's
reducing
the
that,
thing. And I hate to say this. Okay, so there's a big difference between a Freightliner or a Peterbilt truck and your car. And the difference is about 1 million miles, right? And the key, of course, is your car is designed to do 100,000 miles and then fall apart so that they can sell you another car. When you go
right.
buy a semi truck, this is designed to go 500,000, 750,000 mile, do an in-frame rebuild, and then run another 1,000,000 miles or whatever. And so part of this is, you can have commercial air conditioners and that are designed with a longer life. Residential air conditioners, once they get it out of the warranty period, I hate to say it, they don't care as much about this. So anything that you can do to help extend the life is probably a really good idea. And by the way, hands up for anybody that's actually rebuilt a 6-cylinder Mack truck diesel engine. That's me. I've done an in-frame. I've done a couple in-frames when I was a kid working in a truck garage. See what a weird and wonderful background I have? Yes. And no, I will not rebuild your diesel engine in your pusher, so don't ask. I'm not
There you
doing it.
go.
But if I had to, guess what? I could. Anything? Yeah, I know. Anything else we know?
So, I mean, on that same topic, I mean, Copeland Emerson is the manufacturer of most of the compressors that are in residential and even commercial refrigeration. And they've done white paper studies basically saying, that soft starts do help extend the life of the compressor. So, therefore the manufacturer's already out there saying, we know that, anything added to help this unit, start up softer is going to and make it last longer. So we do know that.
Yeah, there were commercial versions of these soft start things going back into the 70s. When I worked at Corning Glass, we had air compressors there that they were bigger than a car. I mean, these things were
Right.
massive, and they would tear themselves out of the floor sometimes when they would start up. I mean, huge motors, huge power, 480 volt three phase. And they ended up coming in and putting in some, and they were very expensive at the time, soft start controllers, just to be able to keep these things from tearing themselves apart
Yep.
and from ripping themselves out of the grout in the floor. So that's where I got my initial experience with this kind of stuff. And they were very expensive units back in the day. Now, this is all, and they were big and huge, big rack mount things. Now these fit down in a little box, yay big. Just because everything has been miniaturized. So I think that that's actually a really interesting thing. Oh, one other thing, Aaron, we should talk about. I know of at least 2 states that will give you a surcharge as a residential customer, power customer, if your peak amperage goes over a certain amount. And
Yep.
and this can be quite substantial adder onto your entire electric bill. So if you're in one of, and I think Hawaii is one, right? I believe.
Hawaii's one, California is one, and I'm
Right.
sure there's others. But
There's probably others. And the key here is if you've got a lot of other appliances running in your house and your air conditioner starts at that inrush spikes, it all of a sudden triggers them and say, wait a minute, you are a high power user. And so now we're going to add on an extra, just because we love you so much. I think you said one, it was like $75 a month or something. That was an add-on. Somebody had told me that.
I don't know about that, but I mean, I definitely know that it definitely increases, your bill significantly.
Yeah. But now in most cases, the amount of energy savings during the startup cycle here is going to be very small, maybe a few dollars a month. And so this none of the soft start products actually reduces the amount of static running current. This is all about the starting cycle. But as you have more and more appliances in your house that you're trying to run at the same time, that's when you can get away with, let's say, a 7,000 watt generator. And this is also another thing that we've talked about. I'm probably going to get in a couple of multi-fuel generators, like a combo propane gasoline generator on the order of 8 or 9,000 watts. And that should be able to run a house very nicely.
Yeah.
I also really, really like inverter generators that have the ability to slow down during low power usage, because they end up using maybe half the gasoline or propane of one that's just running at a standard 3,600 RPM or whatever the whole time. So I think, like I said, we're going to do one of these webinars just on, generators here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's brilliant.
So we'll do that. Okay, so let's see what else we got. Do we have any other questions from you guys? I know this is a lot to absorb. So Aaron, what other kind of questions do you get from customers about this, or from installers about this?
Well,
About any of these SoftStartHome products?
Yeah, one is, what, how long does this take to install? And the answer is it's pretty quick. You saw we did 5 in 2 days. But if you have the wiring diagram schematic, you take a picture of that, you email our tech support, they will send you a custom color-coded diagram back of the specific model. And once you've done it once, it probably takes 15, 20 minutes to do.
So we got another
very
question
quick.
that just came in. Any comments on using SoftStartHome for home fridges and freezers? It's probably overkill for that, but there's another product, which is the SoftStart Up, which can in fact help with residential refrigerators and freezers in terms of reducing inrush current from a generator. And even though you really can't add a soft start product onto can't stack them. You can, in fact, from everything that I've seen, and I've not tried it, but all of my gut feel is you could use a soft start up, which is like basically on a 50 amp generator coming in, plus have one on the on your air conditioner heat pump. And I think that they would actually complement each other. Again, until I've actually tried this, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure. And another one is submersible pumps. I am pretty darn confident, because I know how submersible pumps work, that adding one of the SoftStartHome onto your submersible pump. I've got one out at my dad's house. I think this thing's down 375 feet or something like that. It's way far down. And as soon as it gets a little warmer out, I'm going to go stick one on there and measure it before and after. Because again, this is another, I'm not a survivalist at all, but basically I want to take care of myself, and I don't want to become a burden on other people that have to come take care of me. That would be really embarrassing, because I've got a lot of my friends in the fire department. And if they had to come bail me out of something, I would never hear the end of it. So you can see I'm driven to know stuff, because I've got friends all over the place. I got first responders, fire chiefs, arson investigators. These are my friends, and we get to trade war stories. I don't want to be one of their war stories. I really don't.
You make a good point. Back to California. Right now, you had mentioned the generator getting a rebate. I do know they just passed NEM 3, which I'm not sure how many are familiar with that. But essentially, they're looking for people, like I said, to be self-sufficient with, their well pumps and, and different things. So we've been asked, does the SoftStartHome work on, submersible pumps, well pumps, things of that sort? And the answer is right now is we're still in testing. So Mike, you're going to be a big part of that.
More fun. I like testing stuff, and I've got my little Funkworks lab here set up here in Funkstown, Maryland. There really is a Funkstown, Maryland, and I really am on Funkstown Hill, which is hence the name, my Funkworks lab, right? Because I can't use the word skunkworks, because those guys at Lockheed Martin don't like, they have that locked down copyright wise. But yeah, I'll get to do that. So Howard asks, the Bartlett used in my home was new the Bryant used in my home was new in 2014. I have the unit professionally inspected every 6 months. Is there a realistic expectation of extending the life of this unit? What do you think, Aaron? So it's 2014. How often does it cycle?
Well, that's the question. I mean, is it a heat pump? Is it an air conditioner? Is it year round, or is it, seasonal? It's going to get run. If it's an air conditioner, it's going to get run a lot less. But we know that, like anything, right? Air conditioners are not made like they used to be. So traditionally, life expectancy is somewhere between 10 and 15 years. Will the SoftStartHome extend that? Well, it will definitely help extend that. With less wear and tear on the compressor, it's definitely going to help. We can't say for sure that, you're going to get an extra 2 or 4 or 6 years out of it, but it will definitely help the compressor.
So again, until we get a bunch, until we get a lot more anecdotal data from the field, it's hard to know. But some of this is like changing the oil in your car. The more often you change it, the longer the engine's going to last. If you don't want it to last, you don't change your oil. I mean, there you go. Let's see. Howard also. Oops. Okay. So Doug, One of my buddies in California. Would you need a specially designed unit for well pumps? And what about swamp pump motors? Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so swamp pump motors, I think, are generally what do they call, shaded pole starters? I don't know of any swamp. I mean, if you're talking like a big commercial, I'm more familiar with the little ones. They're basically like a fan motor inside of them. The ones
Right.
that I've been involved in, and they hardly draw more than a couple hundred watts. I don't think they have very much inrush. I mean, their impedance, current limited by their impedance, I think. But you may be talking about a much larger one. We'd have to look at that. And well pumps, yeah. See, I am pretty sure, and I will probably know in the next month, if the stock soft start home will work on a submersible well pump. I am pretty confident that it will, because it's not really that. It is a compressor. It is a capacitor start motor. But again, I've got to look at the wiring and how this is all set up to drive this thing, and if we can mount it in there, or if we can mount it in the control box or wherever. It may be that the soft start up product may be better for that, simply because it could just go on the existing wiring on it. More for me to look at. I am not wanting to pull that pump out because it's 375 feet down. But it would be, that's an interesting question. You and I can discuss this. See, it's nice to have other engineers to kind of.
Well, exactly. I would say that the number one question I get is, does this work on pumps?
Right.
So we need to have an answer to that.
We need more data. I've got to go do more stuff, more fun. Okay, what else we got out here? So, Aaron, any other thoughts that you've got? We've got another 7 minutes here before we need to get off. Any other thoughts or any other anecdotal data from the field? You've actually been installing more of these than I have. I've done exactly one. I've done a number of the Soft Start RV ones. It's not terribly different than Soft Start RV. The RV ones, you got to climb up on the roof of a RV, which is the most dangerous part of it. This, you're generally at home, but you're down in the weeds with the snakes and the bugs, and
Right.
everything has its own thing. But any other info that you can think of? And I should tell you, Aaron, what I can do for anybody that's visited this, I could go ahead, if you want me to put a email contact for you, I could put that in the information after the fact. So you could email Aaron directly. You can email me. I'll put both of our contacts things after I'm done. This will in fact be available for you guys to watch ad nauseum. I'll put it up tomorrow. Let's see. Couldn't it be installed topside for the well pump? See, Doug, that is my question. I think it can be installed topside. This is what I've got to go find out and do some experiment. Yes. He asks all the tough questions. I know.
So you mentioned one other thing, which is batteries, right? Power walls, whatever, battery backup. How does the SoftStartHome, help that situation, right?
Yeah, and the stuff that I've looked at, it's basically Generac and those guys are selling these things now. They're basically like a 7,000 watt inverter generator is what they are. They're a 12240 inverter, basically the inverter part of like a Honda 7000 IS. And what that tells you is you're going to have the same issues that you do if you've got a heat pump air conditioner that you're trying to start. If you have other appliances on in your house at the same time, you're going to have an issue. And another thing that's interesting that I have got to go study more on, heat pumps are actually, believe it or not, more efficient than resistive heating. Yeah. So that is, if you have a heat pump, it's actually cheaper to run the heat pump off of a gasoline generator than it is to run a bunch of space heaters off of it, because space heaters are only 100% efficient. That is, whatever watts goes in, watts comes out, but heat pumps are actually moving that stuff around. again, I got more stuff to study on that to figure out how it all works. But, you know, I'm in soft retirement. I think you guys know that, right? That is, I've ditched the stuff that I don't want to do. And I am not going to be climbing around. I will not set up your rock and roll sound system for AC/DC anymore. I am done. Done. But this stuff I really, really enjoy. So I get to use my background and all of these various things that I used to do to study this and measure things and come up with interesting tests. So I think this is a fun thing for me to do in my soft retirement years. My wife says, "You're not going to retire, are you? And just sit around and bother me, are you?" And I went, "Well, dear, I will find stuff to do, but I still will be around enough to bother you, but I will find plenty to do." So this is why I think this is just a fascinating time to learn all of this. And, you know, I'm doing stuff with electric vehicles and EV charging, and solar panels and lithium battery charging and on and on and on. And this is the stuff that I've been curious about over the years. And now I get to do it for real and write about it and do videos on it. And I get to confer with people that know a lot about those particular subjects. And just like those aliens that want to eat their brains, I want to know what they know. So any other questions for you guys? Anybody out in the field here? You got questions? Okay, if we don't have any more questions, we're going to go ahead and sign off. And then what we'll do is, like I said, I will post links to this tomorrow. I know Aaron will send it around and post some links to all of this. If you have after the fact questions, be sure to email Aaron or me and we'll cover that. And then I'm going to try to do at least one a month of these Ask the Experts videos. And we're going to have some more fun. Any topics that you want, you know, send to me and I'll go find an expert somewhere. Okay, so Howard says, "Thanks for the info." Jim says, "Good stuff. Thank you." Doug says, "Can a user tune a soft start?" I thought it was going to be a guitar. I thought it was a guitar reference as a tune a fish. You can tune a guitar, but you can't tune a fish. Can a user tune a soft start? I think the one unit that they have actually has the soft start up actually has a software control that you can adjust the inrush currents on it with a Bluetooth app. I've got one here, the 120 volt unit. I don't have the 240 volt unit. And Doug says, "Thanks very much." Yeah, man, these are great questions. Okay. If we're all done, we're going to say this. Mike Sokol, I'm signing off. Say bye. Bye, Aaron.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all so much for spending an hour here with us. Let me know if you've got any other questions. We'll do this again in a few weeks or a month. You guys, I will see you in Boston next week at the Boston RV show. And then the week after that, I will be out at Quartzsite, Arizona, non-virtually. I'll be there for real teaching this stuff. Very, very good. All right. Thanks, everybody, and good night.
Good night.